Okay, time for me to tell y'all the truth. I never used any accommodations in my special education classrooms. I was thinking about it. My first special education class, I was a substitute teacher. And I had previously worked as a mental health specialist, modifying behavior, improving behavior, and also improving focus, teaching social skills, all that good stuff, right? I noticed there was a link between kids acting out and their inability to read and function independently when it's time to do their work. So I decided to go into teaching so I can improve behavior and also learning at the same time. So fast forward, I was a substitute teacher, bounced from school to school. Then I get a class for a whole entire year, right? I started about October, all right? And it was a special education classroom. We didn't use any, I read their IEPs, but I didn't use any accommodations. And the aides that came were upset with me because they wanted to help them read. They wanted to help them write. When I wrote a writing prompt on the board, I saw the aides go and sit next to the students and grab the pencil and say, "What do you want to write?" And then the students started to read, tell them, and then the aides started writing it down. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. And I said to her, if you write for them now, you're going to be writing for them for the rest of the year. The aides didn't like me. They thought that they said that I'm going to keep them stagnant. They're not going to grow. And I felt the opposite. By reading and writing and doing things for them, then they are going to be stagnant and they're not going to grow. So after a while, those aides left. We didn't work out well together. Another aide came in. I told this story before. She came in as a one-to-one aide for one of my students. And I told her, don't let him know that you are here for him. Let him know. Make him think that you're here for everybody, right? For the whole class. But don't focus on him. And this student went from throwing tantrums every day, having meltdowns, crying, slobbing, snot coming out his nose, holding on to my leg, falling out, not doing his work, to just being a happy kid, just working, doing his work and helping out in class, being one of my leaders, going to the office for me to pick up papers and drop things off. Just amazing student. And then the rest of the students too, all of them, they learned how to read. They were sitting down in class. They like to participate in my learning games, but in my learning games there were no devices back. We wasn't doing that. You understand what I'm saying? It was get up, we're gonna pass a ball around and spell this word and keep going until one of us misses the letter, and then that person is out, and then closing the circle, and then we'll do it again. Stuff like that. Because I'm the oldest of 7 kids, so I had games for days, okay? So that's what we did in that class. And their behavior improved so much. I never used any accommodations, right? And then later on, as a resource pull-out teacher, I'm just thinking about it now again. I never used any accommodations in the class. I just taught them like everybody else. And I was very strict with them, but also nurturing, and we played at the same time, but I did not play. And no excuses. And I do the same thing with my students. I work virtually with them all over the country. Some of them are special needs, some of them have IEPs, but they don't have any accommodations, right? I know some of y'all are gonna be mad at me when I tell you this, but I'm just telling you my reality, okay? And I remember in that class, with the testing, I did not help them when it was time for them to take tests. I taught them test-taking skills. We worked, we practiced, we drilled. Then when it was time to take the state test, I just had them. I said, I can't help you, right? And then when we were having a meeting with the principal, he called my class out because my class was one of the classes that made the most improvement on their test scores from the previous year. Listen, I'm not saying all accommodations are bad, and I'm not saying in the most extreme cases, and we have to identify what's extreme cases because I'm a little extra, right? But in the most extreme cases, or when there's a physical disability, right? Yeah, we need accommodations, right? But a lot of kids they really don't need accommodations. You know what they need? They need more structure. They need more standards. They need to work harder, and they need to be pushed, okay? And they need no nonsense behavior plans, right? They need no nonsense, get it together, you could do better than this, behavior plans. That's what they need. And of course, we love on them at the same time. This is how I help kids over the years. So when I talk to you about, do we need so many paras in the room? Like, do we need so many? That's because of my experience that I had, where I taught the kids to function so independently. The para didn't really have to sit next to them and work with them. And they were improving reading, writing, math, spelling, everything. They also had jobs. They were cleaning the room. Someone was sweeping. Someone was wiping desks. Someone was erasing the board. Someone was feeding the fish. You know what I mean? Someone was passing out paper. Someone was picking up paper. I had them working, not just academically. I had them working to, like I said, this is your classroom. We're a family, okay? And when I had it to be out, they did the same thing. The students, the substitute teachers loved teaching my class because the students ran the class. They learned leadership. They took initiative. I'm saying this, when I talk to y'all, I'm talking about the classrooms where the class is completely falling apart. Teachers are stressing and quitting because the kids don't want to work. They want to be helped too much. They want so much focus on them. They like to disrupt the class. They're not being respectful to the teacher. They're not listening. Listen, I've been in classes where I've observed a student sitting there and he's kicking the desk in front of him while the teacher's trying to teach. Or kids are fighting while the teacher's trying to teach. One kid's getting up and walking around while the teacher's trying to teach and not listening and arguing. As soon as she starts teaching, everybody asking to use the bathroom. She letting them use the bathroom. No, you use the bathroom when it's time to use the bathroom. Right now, sit down, get your pencil, eyes on the board, pencil moving. We need to make sure that kids are always writing, always. All right? We do too much of this click stuff. First of all, they have their iPads and their Chromebooks, and they're doing a lot of clicking and scrolling, and then they're getting help. Come on, y'all. Let's get our kids working harder. They can do it. If I could do it all those years ago, just starting out teaching, okay, as a substitute teacher, then again as a resource pull-out teacher, now online, then we could all do it. All we have to do is get together and figure out how it could work in the classrooms, not just say it can't work. And I know what y'all gonna say, are you even an educator? Do you know what you're doing? Of course kids need help. Why would you ever want to, come on, before we start doing all that, I know y'all gonna say it anyway, think. Let's try to figure out how. Here, in my personal life, but also when I teach my students, we don't say can't, we say how. How are we gonna get this done? So let's talk together, because I'm talking about this because I would like for teachers, my nose running, to not be so stressed out, for parents to feel good about their kids going to school and know that they're just going to keep getting better and better and better. Listen, that's what parents feel when they're in my program with my students. That's what you should feel, parents. If your child threw tantrums last year, if your child didn't do their work and they couldn't read last year, then this year you should have something different. Teachers, if you have been putting up with disrespectful, disruptive behavior last year, this year, you deserve something different. You know what? The kids deserve something different, because they don't feel good about themselves when they can't read, when they're failing, when they're getting pulled out of class all the time because they're disrupted. They might be trying to get pulled out so they can get a break, get away from doing work. But failure does not feel good. You know what feels good? Success. Success feels good. Being able to do something that they couldn't do before. Asking, can I read next? When a kid, when he couldn't read before, and he used to avoid reading at all costs. and even act